This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also, for the most part, unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. And for the 105th time ever, we are live from the Reviewing Network studios to bring you the third season of the Reviewing Network Live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Reviewing Network Live. And we have another exciting way to kick off this new season. We're going to start it off with another one of my commentaries. I did one last year for Bambi, one of my favorite movies of all time. So I'm going to do another one of my favorite nostalgic classics, and that is Space Jam. Of course, with Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny. I mean, it came out at the perfect time when I was a kid in 1996. I loved Looney Tunes. I loved the Chicago Bulls. I live in Pittsburgh, so I don't have a professional basketball team to root for around here. So yeah, take that for what you will. But we're gonna get to that a little bit later on in the later on here, after we do what we usually start off with here. So we are gonna get to that. So stick around for that. If you can't wait that much, and you really want to see that commentary, the timestamps down below. But before we do that, of course, we have to go to what we usually start off with here on this particular show. And yes, even on Labor Day weekend, the weekend box office is still something that's at least worth talking about a little bit here. It is usually the weekend where, most studios dump off their films that they don't really believe in or don't really think are going to make much of an impact. And lo and behold, the box office this weekend wasn't really all that strong, even though 3 of the 4 new releases that came out this weekend did make it into the top 5. So this top 5 looks very, very different than it did last week, specifically also because K-Pop Demon Hunters is nowhere to be found, so I guess that was only a 1-week thing, and Netflix is basically deciding to not try to keep it going in theaters, even though the first weekend as the #1 movie was an indication that, hey, maybe we should do that, but nope, not Netflix. No. We don't want them to believe, because we don't want the people to believe that we actually care about the theatrical experience, but we do have 3 new releases in the top 5 this weekend, so let's just go ahead and jump on into it here. And we'll start off with the number 5 movie this week, one of those new releases. That is The Roses, with Benedict Cumberbatch and Olivia Colman starring in the sort of reboot of The War of the Roses, but not really. I mean, it is kind of, it's more in, I think supposedly it's more in line with the original War of the Roses, is the book that it was based off of, and not the 1989 Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner, Danny DeVito film. This one is more loosely based on the 1981 book of the same name, and just like in the original War of the Roses, you have a story about a couple, a tinderbox of competition and resentment underneath the facade of a picture-perfect couple is ignited when the husband's professional dreams come crashing down. And this film also includes notable names like Andy Samberg, Allison Janney, Nishi Gatwa from Doctor Who, Kate McKinnon, directed by Jay Roach, who also did Meet the Parents and Austin Powers, and written by Tony McNamara, who did Poor Things. And overall, this didn't do bad business overall. I mean, the box office in general for this was actually pretty good. $6.3 million this weekend, if you count the 5-day numbers from Labor Day weekend, which the estimates are for tomorrow. It's a 4-day weekend, I should say, not 5-day. $8 million in total. Worldwide, it's up to $17.2 million. I can't see this movie having that big of a budget overall. I mean, the biggest star is Benedict Cumberbatch, but, I mean, I don't think this is going to be like a $40 to $50 million budgeted movie in general. But, I mean, it is what it is. It does deliver what it promises, and reviews for this actually have not been that terrible for it. I mean, it's got a 65 on Rotten Tomatoes, and on Metacritic, it's got like a 59 out of 100 and a B+ on CinemaScore, but I haven't heard anybody say it's downright terrible. But it's a movie I've been wanting to check out. I think I'm going to check it out next weekend, because as you saw today, I didn't do a talking about the movies episode, and I said earlier in the year, from the 20th anniversary, I was going to do one for every single week of 2025, and I just didn't. When you say you're going to do something, you have to make sure you have enough material to work with here. And my whole idea was to do like the top, my favorite overlooked movies of the year. And for some reason, I just didn't feel like I just didn't have the feel to do that, because I mean, quite simply, I think I've pretty much already covered a lot of these overlooked films that I've been wanting to talk about here. And it just basically came down to, should I really waste my time doing an episode on this? So, for this one weekend only, I'm not do. I said I wasn't. I said I'm not going to do. I said that I was going to do one per year, for the entire year, one every week for the entire year is what I'm trying to say. But for this week, I'm giving myself I'm making an exception. I just didn't feel like doing it this week. I didn't feel like I would give you people out there a good enough episode, but there will be a new episode next week as I take a look at the new Conjuring movie, as well as I'll go see The Roses. It should still be playing in theaters next weekend, so I'm definitely looking forward to checking it out, though, because I love the original War of the Roses, the Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito one, Michael Douglas, Danny DeVito one. Good Lord, I keep thinking, I get my Michaels confused, damn it. But anyway, speaking of remakes, the number 4 movie this week is Freakier Friday, which is still hanging in there, $6.5 million. This weekend is 4 weeks, $80.4 million. If you can count tomorrow's numbers, up to $82.2 million, $132.6 million worldwide. And if you want to compare the 2003 reboot in its 4th weekend, it should be right about here. And I think it will, let's see. In its 4th weekend, the original Freaky Friday was at $87 million for the initial 3-day numbers, and then if you count the 4-day numbers, it's up to $90 million. So it's still very close to the original Freaky Friday. It'll probably hit $100 million before it's all said and done, but it'll be close, though. I think this one's just going to miss the mark a little bit, but it's not an impossibility that it could do that. But let's get to another new release this weekend, number 3, which is the one that I saw the most advertising for. So if you were watching ESPN, you saw this all over the place. Caught Stealing, the new film from director Darren Aronofsky, starring Austin Butler and Zoe Kravitz and Regina Hall and Liev Schreiber among the cast in here. And it's a story about an ex-baseball player who unexpectedly finds himself embroiled in a dangerous struggle for survival amidst the criminal underbelly of 1990s New York, forcing to navigate a treacherous underworld he never imagined. And so the numbers on this one, $9.5 million if you take the 5-day totals. If you include the 3-day totals, it's $7.8 million, bringing its worldwide total to $14.9 million. And this one, I believe, had a budget of $40 million. So yeah, I think this one's going to have a much tougher time making its money back overall, but reviews for this actually weren't that bad either. 84% on Rotten Tomatoes, 65 out of 100 on Metacritic, and it's got a B on CinemaScore. So The Roses actually did better in terms of CinemaScore, and I think it's just a little bit more than The Roses on Metacritic, so take that for what you will. For me personally, I just never really saw anything in this particular movie that made me say, I gotta see this movie, man. It just looked like another retread of Baby Driver, except, you know, this time it's Austin Butler leading the charge, and it's not directed by, who did Baby Driver? Edgar Wright, yeah. Yeah? He did that movie, right? Yeah, he did Baby Driver. I didn't like Baby Driver either, so Baby Driver was one of those movies that I was really just like, I don't see why people see this movie as any good, because I'm just watching it being like, yeah, it's fine, I guess, but saying it's a great movie overall and one of Edgar Wright's best, no, I'm sorry. Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, World's End, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Last Night in Soho, I think are much better movies than Baby Driver was. And that's probably what I would say the same thing about this movie in particular. Nothing really about it made me say, I gotta see this movie. And I still probably won't see it. Maybe if it comes out on Blu-ray at a good price, I might get it, but I have no real interest in checking this movie out, unfortunately, so. But that brings us to the number 2 movie this week, and it's the 50th anniversary re-release of Jaws, which brought in $8.1 million for the 3-day weekend. If you include the 5-day numbers, it's up to $9.8 million for the 4-day numbers, I should say. I keep saying 5-day, but $9.8 million, which is actually not that bad for this movie at all. I mean, this is a movie that has been out on Blu-ray and DVD and has been on television all year long. And yet, when people see it in theaters, they say, you know what? You have the experience, you have the chance to say, I've never seen Jaws on the big screen before, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and see it on the big screen, like I did 3 years ago when this was re-released in theaters. I remember going to see it on the day that is on Labor Day weekend that weekend, and yeah, it's a great movie, a great classic film, and it actually did 3 times as much as the 2022 re-release did, and yeah, I hope, a new generation gets to experience this movie on the big screen. And I'm glad to see that Universal is re-releasing more of these movies, because we got Casper coming up next month, and Back to the Future is coming out for its 40th anniversary on Halloween weekend, and you're goddamn right I'm going to be there on opening weekend. I've seen Back to the Future on the big screen before when my Cinemark theater was being constructed, so I had to go all the way out to the Robinson Town Center to go see it at the movie theater there. And I saw it in downtown Pittsburgh when it was at the Benedum Center when they were doing like Back to the Future in concert. Yeah, I've seen it in the big screen a couple of times, but I get a chance to see one of my favorite movies of all time on the big screen again. You're goddamn right, I'm going to go see it again. So yeah, I'm looking forward to checking that out. And I hope a new generation got to experience Jaws in a light they hadn't seen before. This was a great movie that does deserve to be seen on the big screen, and I can only imagine what it would have been like to see it on an IMAX screen. I saw it in Cinemark XD, which is not anywhere near as good and it's as grand as IMAX. I've been to an IMAX screening several times. IMAX screenings are amazing to watch a movie. I remember back in the day when I saw Superman Returns, and also I think I saw Shrek the Third in IMAX 3D too, in IMAX 2, but I can't remember for certain. But anyway, so that's Jaws. That's all the new releases. The number one movie from this weekend, which was not number one last weekend because of K-pop Demon Hunters, but moved backed up. It's still hanging in there and doing gangbuster business. Weapons, it's still hanging in there. $10.2 million this weekend, dropping only 33% from last weekend. $132.3 million from the 3-day numbers, but if you include the 4-day numbers, it's up to $134.6 million, and Monday's estimates they have about $2.2 million. Overall, it's still a gangbuster hit, $234 million worldwide. What more can you say, man? It's one of the best movies of the year. People are still going to see it, and this is its last weekend at the number one spot because, of course, next weekend we have The Conjuring coming out, and that's sure to do big gangbuster business and keep Warner Brothers on this hot streak they've been on so far this year. I mean, well, they've had like 6 number one movies so far this year, and that's probably going to be extended to 7 with this one coming up here. I don't know if one battle after another is going to do that kind of business, but they started to promote it on TV more, so maybe they're hoping that they can get the same thing going with that. But then again, that movie I think has like a big budget of like over $200 million, if I'm not mistaken. It was like a big number overall. Yeah, like $130 to $175 million. So it's going to really have to have a lot of marketing being put into that to get this movie going. I think Variety says it needs to bring in at least $300 million to turn the profit and skip the film festival circuit to avoid reviews that might damage its commercial prospects. So this is a very tough one to try to sell to people, but hopefully Warner Brothers knows what they're doing on that front. But other than The Conjuring, next week is not going to be the best overall weekend for new stuff. I mean, you have Hamilton coming out in theaters, which I don't know how that's going to do in general. I mean, it'd be cool to see that on the big screen again, certainly, but I don't know how big of a response it's going to get over at the box office, but we'll wait to see what happens on that one. There's also another animated movie for the faith-based audience coming out, Light of the World, which I've only been seeing previews of it on Game Show Network, and other than that, though, I mean, it's one of the, Christian movies are very tough to predict the box office in general. You really have to know like, these church groups do a very good job of basically selling these movies to people, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this one plays out. I don't think it's going to do as good as something like King of Kings did, which had a big marketing push early on around Easter time. But then again, you never know. It's one of those things where you just got to wait to see what happens there. So there we go. That's the box office for this weekend, and not really much happening in general. I mean, you can pretty much figure out what exactly was going to go where when you saw the numbers in general. But Jaws was the big hit overall, and yeah, it is what it is. So let's go ahead and get right to what you're actually here to see. That's right. It's time to go ahead and do my commentary for one of my favorite nostalgic guilty pleasures of all time, and that is, of course, Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny in Space Jam. Hello everybody, and welcome to my second ever feature film commentary, this time on Space Jam, another one of my favorite nostalgic movies from back in the day. Of course, came out in 1996, right at the hype of the Chicago Bulls as they were about to have their second dynasty, and this was made at the right time for me. I mean, I used to watch the Looney Tunes all the time on Nickelodeon and on Saturday mornings, and my favorite basketball team was and still is the Chicago Bulls, and this is Michael Jordan's time, and this was just made at the right time for me to get involved in this film, as we're starting off with the opening here. And one of the things they're selling you off with right off the bat is the soundtrack for the movie, which some might say is better than the actual film, and I can't argue with that, because the thing with this movie in general is that I know it's not a great movie overall. There are a lot of flaws in the story department, and we're going to get into those as we move along here, but I can't help it, man. This is still one of my favorite movies of all time, and just a guilty pleasure of mine. It's something I grew up with, and I know it's silly, I know it's ridiculous, and I'm just kind of killing time here until the music stops here. We get to the story as Michael's dad is coming out as he's a little kid. So let's go ahead and listen to some of this real quick.
Come on, let's go inside. Just one more shot? All right. That's one. That's good. You did good. Getting pretty good, son. Go ahead. Do your best.
You think if I get good enough, I can go to college?
Hey. Get good enough, you can do anything you want to, Michael.
I want to play North Carolina.
I just love how they pick just a random... That's one of my favorite things about this scene. The dialogue right here. Like, I love how they just go, like, I want to play for North Carolina. I want to be on a championship team. And he just keeps shooting baskets. Like,
I want to play in the NBA.
like I just love the dialogue here, and just how they're kind of in on the joke overall. This just feels like something that's supposed to be like uplifting. It's just kind of like they're kind of in on the joke and everything, and they're talking about right now, he wants to play baseball at some point. But
That's the sport. When you finish with that, I suppose you're gonna fly, huh?
yeah, some of the dialogue here can be really corny, but this right here I think is a great transition into the opening titles here. Yeah, just this great moment where they're about to go inside, and then, of course, you see the kid doing what Michael Jordan did best back in the day, and this is just such a great moment with the music by James Newton Howard and everything. Yeah, the intercutting there is just so good to see. And this is one of the few times I think you actually have an animated cartoon character in the... turn down the music here for copyright reasons, but I think it's the first time you ever see an animated character getting a headlining title in a movie like this, and not just like, the title of the movie like Wallace and Gromit. No, Bugs Bunny's like a legitimate real person in this movie. And again, this is just such a great little homage to, show you Michael Jordan's history in the 13 years he was in the NBA, and of course his time in North Carolina and all that. Yeah, it's a glorified love letter to Michael Jordan, but who cares, man? I mean, I'm sorry. Michael Jordan is still the best basketball player of all time. And I like LeBron James and all that, but I'm sorry. He'll never be Michael Jordan no matter how hard he tries. Of course, you got some of the names of some of the big basketball stars they had at the time. Muggsy Bogues, Shawn Bradley, Patrick Ewing, Larry Johnson, Charles Barkley. Of course, you got Quad City DJs doing that banger of a theme song. Again, man, the soundtrack for this was pretty big at the time, and it still is considered I think it's still one of the biggest top-selling soundtracks they had. Warner Brothers knew how to sell you on the soundtracks because of this, and also The Bodyguard, which these two movies are kind of similar, because The Bodyguard's one of those movies that, great soundtrack and all, the movie's not so great overall. I mean, the performances in that movie are good, too. Yeah, just great song right here. Just anytime you hear that song, you just want to start tapping your feet and start dancing along. But this was kind of an interesting time because, Who Framed Roger Rabbit was still only 8 years old at this point, and everyone was trying to create their next big Roger Rabbit success, and nobody could really nail it down, because of course Paramount tried to do it with Cool, but that was a movie that had a bunch of sketch production issues behind the scenes, they changed the script around and all that. But this was the first real attempt to try to cash in on to do what Disney had been doing for years now for Warner Brothers, and paid off big time, and led them to put more focus on the animation studio and get more projects going. Unfortunately, the marketing campaign was not involved in a lot of those movies because, of course, stuff like Cats Don't Dance, Quest for Camelot, especially The Iron Giant, failed to fire at the box office, which Cats Don't Dance and The Iron Giant, that's a shame, but Quest for Camelot, not so much. Of course, they're showing all the highlights from the years he won the championships. Two of the writers for this wrote for, I believe, one of the Addams Family movies, and the others wrote for a couple of Ivor Reitman movies like Twins, which makes sense because Ivor Reitman's name, as it comes up here, is one of the producers on here. I still say that Ivan Reitman, man, is one of the great filmmakers we've ever had. Like, so many classic comedies. I mean, he ended his career on a couple of high notes here. And yeah, Joe Pytka, of course, commercial director, and not really well known for most film roles. I think the only one he ever did was Let It Ride with Richard Dreyfuss, and that wasn't that great overall. Of course, they're doing a homage to when Michael Jordan retired. They don't kind of bring up his father being killed, which was part of why he retired back in 1993. But then again, I can see why. It's a kids movie, so I don't see why you should bring that up. Of course, we got enough shot of Chicago, or at least what looks like Chicago, but some of the CG here isn't too bad. I mean, this was back in 1996 when CG wasn't as refined as it was nowadays. As got a nice little transition to the theme park of Moron Mountain. You just gotta love how there's just a theme park out of nowhere on this planet. This was 3 years before Futurama perfected it with the theme park on Mars and all that. Let's again turn down the volume here for copyright concerns, but it is a stylistic looking theme park, I'm not gonna lie, and this does seem like the type of thing that a slumbag like a Swackhammer would probably own and operate. I always saw this shot and I think to myself, was there 9 of these aliens inside of there? Because you only see 5 in there, but there's like sets of 3 overall as we see our first introduction to Swackhammer, voiced by Danny DeVito, and of course, is a parody of the Bulls owner Jerry Reeves, as the Last Dance documentary would essentially tell us. Yeah, you only see 5 of them, but if you see it early on, there's like 9 of them at the beginning. So where'd the other 4 go? I always just love how as soon as he hits the remote, the Looney Tunes cartoons are all of a sudden on television. And again, we're kind of speeding along here. I mean, we're not even 10 minutes in, and they're already setting up the setup here. These aliens have to go down to the Earth and get the Looney Tunes to come to them. Like we're not even wasting any time with this. Like, we gotta speed this along, man. This is an 88-minute movie, man. And again, kind of just like that, we're thrust into Michael Jordan out on the Birmingham Barons. Or at least it was. He did play in Birmingham. I just didn't know if it was. Yeah, that's the thing I don't remember about this movie. Does this take place in Birmingham? No, it has to be, because I see it on the thing in the back there. It says Birmingham Barons, so I guess it does take place in Birmingham, Alabama. At least I think it does. But so some interesting things about the movie in general that I keep finding out. Like, it's weird. For a movie like this, I always seem to find new and interesting things about this movie that every time this movie comes back to me in so many different ways. Like, I know a couple people that have worked on this movie. Of course, Corey Coleman from Spill.com and Double Toast It worked on this. But I've actually talked to 3 people in my life who have worked on this movie, and one of them actually was from around here. Lives around here. He works at Half Price Books in Monroeville, and I found this out because I found a copy of Space Jam on one of the racks inside of the DVD section, and I wanted to get it to add to my collection. And he said, "Oh, I worked on this movie," and I thought to myself, "Oh, really? Like, I didn't know that. That's very interesting." But yeah, like I said, I know 3 different people that have worked on this movie. This movie just keeps coming back to me in so many different ways. And I keep finding out new things about it. Like, the most recent thing I found out about it was how Spike Lee was heavily involved in this movie early on. Like, I just found that kind of interesting, and just kind of like, imagine what a different movie this would have been if Spike Lee had been involved in this. But then again, there was a Lee eventually involved in this with Space Jam: A New Legacy, which I think it's his brother Malcolm Lee who worked on that movie, if I'm not mistaken. His cousin, excuse me. So, and I gotta take a little break here because we got a little bit of commercial from watching this on Roku. So I'll be back in just a second. All right, we're back as we see the introduction of Stan Podolak, played by Wayne Knight. One of the great character actors, of course, Newman on Seinfeld. He was also on Third Rock from the Sun. He was on another show in the 90s. The second half, not the second half. The one with I think it was the second half. It was the show. It was like a show that only lasted about one season on NBC before they canceled it in like '93. It was on after the John Larroquette show. Yeah, all those people are dead. The spaceship just landed in the Piggly Wiggly, and that's always my favorite gag that I always remember from this. It's just like, always my favorite little dark thought. It's just like, yeah, all those people are dead. These aliens just created a massacre at the Piggly Wiggly. This whole idea of the Looney Tunes world being in the center of the Earth is kind of ridiculous and stupid, but in a way, it just kind of works for this movie in general. Of course, we're getting the introduction of the Looney Tunes characters with Bugs Bunny, voiced by Billy West. And Billy West is pretty good at these voices, man. I mean, he nails Bugs Bunny to a T. I think that's him also as Elmer Fudd, too. The great thing about this is that Bugs knows how to handle people like this, so he does his usual shtick in the Looney Tunes cartoon. So this makes sense overall to do something like this. They heard that and they take it personally. The biggest problem with the plot of this movie is kind of what the older creators of the Looney Tunes basically said. Like, I think Chuck Jones basically said, Bugs Bunny would not need help to stop these aliens, and he could easily do it in a regular movie, in a regular short, but because this is a movie, we have to stretch this out. And yeah, I kind of agree with that. It's just kind of like, it just feels unnecessary for this type of situation here. And I love the fact that there was a Looney Tunes short that basically said, there was a Looney Tunes cartoon from the newer Looney Tunes show that they did for HBO Max, where it's basically kind of basically what Space Jam should have probably gone like. Because as you see, Bugs Bunny didn't need help with beating the douchebag basketball players in that cartoon. If you don't know which one I'm talking about, I think it's Basketball Bunny or something like that. I can get you the episode here if I can find it here, but yeah, Chuck Jones made the argument that Bugs Bunny would not need help from anybody in this situation here. It does feel a little bit out of character, I'm not going to lie. That is something that just kind of feels like, yeah, I completely agree with you. That's something where he really does not need the help of a professional basketball player nonetheless. Like in a commercial, it makes sense. In the short commercial that these were based on, it makes sense. But here, not so much. Let me see if I can find it here. Basket Bugs is what it was called. Of course, we got the dog coming in, Charles the Bulldog. I do think it's kind of funny that they think that Michael Jordan would live in like a normal house like anybody else would. Like, but then again, to its credit, it is a kids movie, and you're really not expected to use a lot of logic here. Just like the bunch of the 12 kids that just came out of this minivan. Like, I know minivans can fit a lot of kids in there, but it's not a clown car, for God's sakes. But at least Michael Jordan's at least acting here, unlike LeBron James in Space Jam: A New Legacy, where it was just kind of like, you know, what was it? We're having something, and he's just like, ooh, that's my favorite. It's just like he's not even trying to act in this, but. I feel like the wife in this movie kind of got screwed over here. Teresa Randall, who's a decent character actress overall, and this was a year where she was in stuff like Girl 6 and all that. But I know she's not expected to do much overall, but she barely does nothing in this movie. I don't know. I just found that kind of odd. But you see Jim Rome, an early Jim Rome before he got his crazy beard and mustache and all that he has now. Yeah, it just feels weird seeing a clean-shaven Jim Rome in this, but I also find it kind of amusing the videos they have on this here. You got the Looney Tunes videos, but you also have stuff like Disorderlies, which, like, I don't know, I just think that's kind of funny. Yeah, you see like Disorderlies on the side there, and so all these other ones, like Rover Dangerfield, Batman Returns. Of course, it's all Warner Brother titles, because why would it be anything else? This part always bugs me because is this happening everywhere else when people are watching Looney Tunes? Like, is this just happening in the Jordan house, or is this happening all over the world? And who else is? And why wouldn't anybody say anything about that? Like, the Looney Tunes go completely missing for no particular reason. So why would you would think that would be a national news story? But no, it's just like it's just nothing at all. But to the credit, this is kind of cool seeing all these Looney Tunes characters in one specific shot here. You don't usually get to see that very often. So that is kind of the fun of watching a movie like this. To see all the Looney Tunes characters in one specific long storyline here. This has one of my favorite over-the-top animations ever. Watch Elmer's reaction here. Like, that's somebody who looks like he's literally about to go insane and kill everybody. That's Steve Bradley Baker as Daffy, and Bill Farmer, the voice of Goofy, as Sylvester. They got some interesting voice choices here. Some veteran actors overall, and most of them do a pretty good job here. That is kind of a good gag to kind of like trick them a little bit here. These aliens are not the smartest, but they're able to adapt, as we'll find out in just a little bit here. But I think this was the first time Bob Bergen did the voice of Porky Pig here, and he did that for over almost 30 years, I think. See, that's kind of cool to see Bugs Bunny and Sylvester in one shot. That was very rare to see in the older Looney Tunes movies and cartoons, and Bill Farmer, give him credit. He actually does a pretty good job playing that role. I mean, this is the guy that you mostly associate with the voice of Goofy, but he plays it very well to a T here. I mean, they are being smart about it because they see these little aliens and they realize, hey, they can't jump high, and their first thought is, a basketball game, that's the way to do it. See, they're adapting, they're learning. They've learned so much that they go straight out to Madison Square Garden, of all places, to go ahead and do this at. Like, I love how their first thought is, let's go all the way to New York City to a place where you'll find the Phoenix Suns and the New York Knicks, and let's just go from there. Like, I like that they're able to adapt there. So now they're not too dumb. Well, here you go. Here's some nice fan fiction. Homer Simpson dating Ray Barone's wife from Everybody Loves Raymond. That's Dan Castellaneta and also Patricia Heaton from Everybody Loves Raymond. Dan Castellaneta, of course, the voice of Homer Simpson on The Simpsons. I love how the guy on the other side looks like Joe Buck a little bit. I think the guy in the back kind of looks a little bit like Michael Irvin a little bit. Not a lot, but just from that brief little distance that I see from him. But of course, you got Charles Barkley. And now here's one of the most memorable, most frequently seen scenes on the inside the NBA. Like, you see that all the time whenever they're talking about Charles Barkley on there. At some point they show that clip there. Of course they're going to show because you play for the Phoenix Suns. You're killing yourself.
Wow. You did it.
Something that I think is kind of cool that nobody notices is that once he gets inside out of the basketball, watch the jackets just stop moving. And, like, I love that little old little homage to, like, old school Looney Tunes cartoons. Because they did that back in the day when it came to, like, the older cartoons. Like, you'll see something moving in the background. As I drop the phone here. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. I almost dropped my phone when I was talking to you. But what I'm trying to say here, I'll pause it right here so I can briefly talk about it here. But what's funny is that when you watch old school Looney Tunes cartoons back in the day, you would see, like, you know, the characters would move in the backgrounds, and then, you know, the camera would move as the background's moving. But then as soon as they get away from the thing that opens up for them, the thing just goes back to like an old animation cell, and it kind of did that with the jacket there. And not a lot of people see that in general, but I actually found that pretty clever when I saw that for the first time. It's just like, that's actually pretty cool. I like that little bit of an homage there, if you will. That it could also be a coincidence too. But anyway, back to the movie. I didn't know this was taking place during the 1995 NBA Finals. Like I was saying, like, she really doesn't have a whole lot to do in this movie. Like, we don't see her again until the very end of the movie, and it's just like, why'd you even bother bringing Teresa Randall into this movie if you're not going to do anything with her? To Michael Jordan's credit, though, he is playing himself. He isn't being like a rapping genie like Shaquille O'Neal was in Kazam. Which, speaking of which, here are the Lakers without Shaquille O'Neal. I don't know if that means they're actually dressing in the hallway or are they just putting the mask on to be like, fuck it, we're not going to take our clothes off in front of these reporters. Like I said, the voice acting in here is pretty good. D. Bradley Baker does a pretty good Daffy Duck in this. He also does the voice of Tweety in here. And again, movie logic tells you that they have is not going to tell you how this is able to happen with these aliens somehow getting the power of these basketball players, but fuck it. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie, when I saw this as a kid in theaters, I was legitimately terrified by this. Again, I was like 7 years old when this happened, and seeing that on the first time on a gigantic big screen with the sound booming, it's just like, yeah, of course I'm gonna be a little bit petrified by this. Yeah. That's another one of those lines that the original Looney Tunes creator supposedly had a problem with, and again, I can't argue with that. It's pretty stupid, but hey, it could always be worse. It could be like the gross out jokes nowadays in kids' movies. Again, it's Bugs Bunny. He doesn't. Why would he need help from a professional basketball player to beat a bunch of aliens? Again, in commercials that works because it's only about a minute long, and you're just kind of like, the moment you start realizing it, it's kind of like, okay, I completely forgot about it. But this is a 90-minute movie. As we're seeing Bill Murray and Larry Bird entering the picture here, which I think it's funny because Bill Murray, like, you know, he was very specific about picking specific movies. Like, he wouldn't do Ghostbusters 3 for the longest time, but, you know, doing Space Jam, why the hell not? And again, he is kind of like the Chevy Chase of Caddyshack 2 in Caddyshack 2 of this movie. Like, he's one of the few is like, he is trying in here, and he is the one who actually feels like he actually has given effort into this. It's certainly a lot more effort than he did in something like Larger Than Life or The Man Who Knew Too Little. Like that line there. Larry's not white. Larry's clear. Like, that's a good line right there. Larry Bird, I think, was coaching at this point. I think he was the head coach of the... If he wasn't the head coach of the Indiana Pacers yet, I think he would be the next year. I can't remember for certain, but... Once again, cartoon logic working here, but Lines like that, like the little lines like that, do kind of work. Like just Bill Murray randomly going, "It is alive." Of course, a little riff on his McDonald's commercials with Larry Bird. He's off the expressway, off the tail, he's off the pipeline, no rim. And again, effects like that do look pretty choppy and pretty lazy, but this is actually a good line here. Like I said, some of the CG here is pretty lame. Like this is not that greatest. Also, why isn't it the older school Warner Brothers logo? Why's it got to be the newer version? Also, gotta love how as Yosemite Sam's grabbing the rope, it's like moving in slow motion. Like, why? We don't know. Again, for some reason, Michael's moving in way too slow motion for some reason. But he is in it, like into it. Like you could tell that he's putting his effort into this. Like they're not asking him to do too much as an actor here. Like he is working it to a T here. Little homage to Chuck Jones in the background there. CJ's Toys. Meanwhile, in reality, Bugs would just go ahead and just use a bunch of bombs, maybe drop an anvil on them, or do something. In the Looney Tunes cartoons, it would be that way, but not in this movie. No. We still got about 53 minutes of this, so we're gonna stretch this. We're gonna stretch this sucker out to a T. So. Yes, I'm sure he's fine. He's in the center of the earth, not with a bunch of cartoon characters. Like he's fine. Don't worry about him. Like again, in reality, the whole thing would be like, where the fuck is Michael Jordan, man? Like where is this guy? And meanwhile, you have Larry Bird and Bill Murray just leaving him behind. Again, little stuff like this is actually pretty creative. The spit literally is cleaning up the gym, especially when Taz does it. Like that's a fun little gag right there. I like that a lot. I don't like the fact that it just turns into the most blandest CG background you could possibly imagine. Like when it was all dirtied up, it actually looked like somebody drew all that, but this looks like something they literally took off the computer. Yet another shot that a lot of the older animators didn't like. Daffy kissing his ass with the Warner Brothers logo on it. again, when you look at this, it just feels scenes like that when the alien hits the rim of the basketball, the glass on the basketball net. It's just like it does not look real whatsoever. And here's some CG Nightmare Fuel coming up for you. This is, of course, like I said, this was back in the middle 90s, but good lord. Like, I get it, CG was still really new back then, but for God's sakes, Toy Story just came out a year ago. You couldn't do anything better than this? Yeah, that looked bad. That looks really, really bad right there. Of course, once again, another song from the soundtrack, Basketball Jones. It's like I love how every like 10, 20 minutes there's got to be at least one song from the soundtrack that's so much better than the actually putting an actual score to the songs here in general, but to the scene here in general, but. Of course, you got a scene here where Charles Barkley's getting beat by a bunch of kids. Yeah, and you can see it's kind of filler overall. I can't tell if this one kid right here is supposed to be a boy with the dreadlocks and all that, but he looks like he's supposed to be a girl, but it looks like he's got a mustache. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm not reading into it. That's a good gag right there. Like, all three of them are so tall, but then there's Muggsy Bogues down there in the bottom. I think it was Sean Bradley, sorry. And again, the music here just seems weird. Like, you have these guys in this hospital, and this psychologist, and you have Barry White in the background just doing his Barry White thing. It's just like, Barry, read the room. I'll never trash talk Ernie Johnson or Shaq ever again. That is Muggsy Bogues, okay. I could have sworn it was Muggsy Bogues. I don't know what I was... Like I said, I really didn't catch up with a lot of basketball. I just knew, like, Larry Bird, Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, Michael Jordan, of course. Another homage, Leon Schlesinger, the Schlesinger Gym. And of course, we got the introduction of Lola Bunny, voiced by Kath Soucie. And again, right from the get-go, her introduction in this movie seems really odd because she does not do anything that loony whatsoever, and her big thing is like a lot of thing with a lot of female written characters back then. It's just like Barbed Wire is one of those examples where the character really just comes down to, like, she's supposed to be the strong, tough, female character, but her big thing is just, like, if you call her something like babe or doll, it's just kind of like, that's disrespectful, and that's the only character trait they have. And again, in this case, yeah, it's just kind of like, yeah, it just feels really odd and really off, But to their credit, later on down the road, they would actually make Lola more loony, like starting with the Looney Tunes show, and then more recently, they even brought Kath Soucie back to do Lola's voice, and it actually does work. It actually does work better with her nowadays. Like, I like Lola Bunny now. I wasn't really a fan of her back then. A line that became a meme for some reason, because that's what most lines nowadays are. Just random lines from movies suddenly become memes. So here's a question I have: where are they keeping Michael when this whole thing happens? Is there just like a random hotel that they're putting him in, or just putting him? They're just being like, fend off on your own, buddy. And yet nobody can hear that knocking on the door. What, does cartoon noise not exist in this world for nobody to hear that noise? And again, this is some pretty good camera work with the animation and all that. It moves fluently overall. Again, a really good line there, and they actually did use that line later for one of the early trailers for this. I didn't know that until very late on down the road. When Bugs holds this North Carolina bag, watch closely at the hand movement when he grabs it, when he puts the shoe in the bag. Like, for some reason, that doesn't look as 2D drawn as the first time he grabs the bag. Like, I don't know. I found that kind of weird. That image of Bugs on the chair. Like, I always remember that from the old cover of Animation Magazine when they were talking about this movie. It's a big hallway. Like, how high is the ceiling in that room for that camera to be up there? That's a good little bit there. You can see that the eyes are clearly animated on the dog, and I think that's kind of funny. In any other situation, these two could easily figure this out with a bomb or something like that, but not in this movie. No. And once again, the kids don't question why Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck are in their house. But
That is the last time I'm ever.
that dog also felt like he wasn't there in that last shot for some reason. Again, they don't question this at all. Like, I love how the logic in this movie is we don't give a fuck. Like, we're just going in along for the ride on this. Yeah, I didn't even realize this until now. Charles Barkley is not in any of the other shots with all the other players. Like, he's on his own throughout this entire movie. I didn't notice that in this scene, but he's not in this shot. Again, the logic here, like Stan would spend the entire day digging this hole, and nobody would notice at all. A little jab at Disney there, which I think it's funny because when this movie plays on Freeform, that line in particular cuts off after the ducks. It's just like, we're gonna play this movie on our network, but we're not, how dare you trash our company by saying that our Mickey is by calling us a Mickey Mouse organization, the blasphemy. Like, I just think that's kind of, I just thought that was really hilarious that line in particular was the one they cut out of the freeform version of this. It's just like, it really feels odd because it's just like, they're not even slandering the company. It's just kind of like, you know, what kind of Mickey Mouse organization, like, which is funny because in actuality, Mickey Mouse was actually supposed to be the referee during the basketball game because Warner Brothers at the time thought because they had a good working relationship with Disney on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, they thought it was essentially giving them free range to ask them, hey, can we borrow Mickey Mouse to be the referee for our basketball game? And Disney just said, no way, Jose, we're not going to let you do that. And once again, we never questioned how Wayne Knight somehow got into this world. Like, we're just expected to buy that. Like, or did he just roll down that hole that they go into to get back here, or what? Like, I mean, it's better than the last situation I was in where I got sprayed in the eye by a dinosaur that killed me in Jurassic Park. Wayne Knight's pretty good in this. It's actually funny because there were other performances and there were other people who were supposed to be who were going to play the side character in this. One of the ones in particular that was interesting was that Jason Alexander turned down the role, and then like Michael J. Fox and Chevy Chase were supposed to be involved, and Nathan Lane was going to audition for it, but Pickard rejected him because he thought he was too gay to appear in the role. And it's just kind of like, then again, this was back around the time back in the 90s, they didn't write gay characters very well, unlike today, of course. But then again, we still kind of treat gay people the wrong way in real life. So take that for what you will. Here's not the NBA commissioner, not David Stern. I love how the guy on the left looks like Michael Eisner a little bit. Alright, so now we're getting to the actual basketball game itself. You got the homage to Edith Joes on the briefly. Characters Looney Tunes characters in particular that you have to remember from like the older cartoons are all throughout this scene right here. But enjoy them because when you see them later on in the crowd shots here, the crowd shots are hilarious and something that desperately needs to be talked about here, as we're going to get into that in just a little bit here after they show the montage here. just kind of killing the time until the music cuts down. That's still a badass uniform, which I'm sad to see they didn't bring back in full for the second movie. They modernized him for a new generation. This kind of felt like that was unnecessary to do that, but I can see why they did it. It's funny because when you watch the trailer, they actually did have crowd shots that look like legitimate crowd shots and not just shots where it literally looked like all the same Looney Tunes characters every other row and all that, but like all these different character designs that they put on them. We'll delve more into that as we go along here. You can even see a little bit here in this opening here that some of them are just like there's one on the right where it's just a turtle with a human woman's face on it, and they never explain why that is, but it's just like. Plus, half of them are just doing like random things over and over again. Like did they? Like I really don't know. Did they really run out of time for these crowd shots and all that? Like, seriously, watch some of these shots as you're watching this movie and look at just how they move so oddly and they look so weird and all that. Like, I'm trying to see if I can find some research on this whole thing. I think one of the big things was that I think they did kind of run out of time to, like, put everybody in there, and, like, it definitely shows in this case. Actually, I do think it's kind of unfortunate that they didn't get the original Bulls announcer to come in and do his narration. Like, anytime you watch those old Bulls intros and he gets to, from North Carolina, number 32, Michael Jordan. Like, it's just one of those things that just hypes you the hell up, man. Yeah, some of these designs in the crowds, like some of them are like stretched out, so they can make it look like it's different from other versions of that character that are in the audience. But it just seems really lazy, man. Of course they're cool. They're Jordans, man. It just also seems odd that Marvin the Martian's the one in these movies that are the referee. Like, he's an alien. Like, you don't think that's favoritism to the aliens in a more on mountains camp? But again, the chroma key work on that shot of Michael trying to get the ball away is pretty well done. Like, you can definitely, it does feel authentic overall that he has these characters around him. And again, maybe they did the crowd shots here because the camera is moving so fast, and they decided not to, like, they didn't have time to, like, re-render the original crowd shots, so they just said, fuck it, just put a bunch of animated characters there, because these shots move way too fast. Again, I think a lot of people have been wanting to do that to Foghorn Leghorn for years. Just like, shut the fuck up, man. And that line, "Did you order original recipe or extra crispy?" With, of course, the homage to his KFC commercials that he did back in the day, which is funny because Foghorn Leghorn is a chicken, and Foghorn Leghorn is technically a rooster, but yeah. People, that's considered a fetish. For Quentin Tarantino, that's considered a fetish. Having a woman's foot up in your face like that. I always didn't know were these the same aliens that were in the opening, or are these the other 4 aliens that were there in the opening there? Yeah, like look at the shots in the back. Like some of them are just like they put a woman's head on a gopher. Like there's shots where there's another cat that's clearly a different breed on another different cat in general. But it's just like what are we doing here? And again, how Stan fit inside these lockers, we'll never tell you. Like you could tell how the camera already started to focus in on him as soon as they cut back to Swackhammer and all of them. Like I didn't notice that until late now. Like, what the hell did they even do to him? Did they just, like, burn him or something? Did one of the aliens use that flamethrower thing that he used early on to, like, fricassee him or something like that? This is a cool little move by Bugs, just trying to like motivate the team by thinking that he has the secret stuff inside of him, but it's just water and all that. Yeah, this is where the fun idea of cartoon logic comes into play here, because, like, anything can happen in this world, as we'll find out later on in the movie. And again, there's some cool there's cool effects in this, like how he's holding that animated bottle like that. Like, I think that's pretty impressive for the time of 1996. Just not all the CD shots in this movie work as well as that. That had to be a tough shot to do, to have just that one live action character and then all the Looney Tunes huddling together like that. That had to be really tough to do back then. But trailer line coming up here. Together, they just might save the world. Again, why weren't they doing this at the beginning of the movie? This thing would have been over in like 20 minutes. Random ass reference to Pulp Fiction. Got one dog in the background with his mouth open, like he's like he's like one of those things where you throw the balls into it, like carnivals. Got like all these different bears in like different colors and all that. I'm gonna try to see all these different things so you can see what I'm talking about here in the crowds, because yeah, they're really odd and really lazy looking. Got characters looking like Flat Stanley creatures. Maurice LaMarche there as Pepe Le Pew. Characters that sadly you can't see anymore in the Looney Tunes cartoons. Yeah, a shot like that's pretty cool, but then when you go to the CG crowd shots, yeah, that's when it looks fake. I don't know why, but for some reason that cracks me up when the blue guy's just like smiling after he says, "Yeah, me too." Like, I don't know why, that cracks me up for some reason. Well, that's poetry right there from Michael Jordan. It feels like he's staring down his old boss of Jerry. I think I said Jerry. I think I said Jerry. I think I said the wrong name before. Let me see. Jerry West. I think I said the wrong name beforehand, but that's no, that's not what I'm thinking of. Jerry Krause. Jeez Louise. I think I said the wrong name before. I think I said Jerry Bass or something like that, but that's the Lakers. But it's Jerry Krause who owned the Chicago Bulls during the Michael Jordan Bulls era. Yes, you'll always lose, like he did whenever he played for the Washington Wizards afterwards, or when he owned the Charlotte Hornets. I love that shot right there where he's just like, "Have faith in my team," and it's just like Swag Hammer turns around, just like, "Faith? How dare you!" And on that last crowd shot, you have two set of the same characters on a different. Is one's ahead of the other one. If you look real closely, it's the dog in like the security guard outfit. Like, I know I keep reaming on this, but I'm sorry. This looks at the crowd shots in this look really lazy. Like, what else am I supposed to take away from that? Here we go. Ready for the greatest shadow ever? Corey Coleman's masterpiece right there. Not the Iron Lung itself, but the Tweety's shadow on the Iron Lung. All these characters, and they don't have enough players for 5 players on the team. That's a great way of doing the whole lie reveal thing. Just wrap it up in a bunch of seconds. It's just like, it wasn't secret stuff. It was just water, and they're just like, oh yeah, we knew that, but hey, you got any more of that? He's dead. That's not bad. It's, again, not bad animation on that, but for every good bit of animation on the live actors, there's always a bad one, and here comes the bad one. Yeah, that looks awful. That looks terrible. Something I thought was kind of amusing about Bill Murray coming into the movie was that he was in the script from the very beginning, but the filmmakers couldn't book him until filming actually started, so Murray actually held out until Jordan personally asked him to be a part of the movie. So he came into this very late into the film, even though he was well written in there early on. Another trailer line. That's a good little. That's another really good line. He has a lot of good lines in this. Like, Bruce is a friend of mine. I just had Teamster come down and bring me down here. Like, makes sense. I mean, Ivor Reitman's the producer on this. He's worked with Bill Murray in the past many, many times, so it makes all the sense to have that in there. These shots had to be really tough to do because they had virtual actors in green screen outfits when they were doing this whole thing. So for Michael Jordan, Wayne Knight, and Bill Murray, this had to be really, really tough to do. Of course, this is the big moment everyone remembers. I mean, as a kid, yeah, this was literally the most epic thing ever to happen. And again, it's an effective CG shot that works really well. And it isn't like this is happening for no particular reason. They're in a world where this can happen, so it makes all the sense for that to happen in this case. I mean, at the time he was 46, so it makes all the sense that what you would be like, yeah, this is too much for me. I had a shot, I took it. Yeah, this is good enough for me. I mean, who blows a 66-20 lead? Honestly. Is he pointing at them? They're the ones that won. And of course, them being big, like, this is something they should have been doing all along. They get the talents, and then they go back up to Moron Mountain and then just beat the shit out of him. Like, it's like, we're tired of you treating us like garbage. Not a bad transition too. Like, you have Bugs with the ball, and then gives it to Michael, and it legitimately works. Like, it's again, this movie has some good shots like that, like good visual effects like that. And they were never seen in any other Looney Tunes projects after this, except for Space Jam: A New Legacy, which makes no sense, because supposedly in that movie, the original Space Jam didn't happen before, because the Looney Tunes were not smart enough to figure out how to do the same thing they did in this movie 25 years later, but... Again, this works because it's Michael Jordan being Michael Jordan. He's not being asked to play a character, he's being asked to play himself. And it works. We don't really know about those people either, but yeah, there's Mike's wife. It's been like, what, almost over an hour since we last saw him? At least give him credit in the sequel. They actually made LeBron James's family a central plot of the sequel, and not just a pushover like in this film. And of course, we gotta plug the soundtrack again. You would think this would be the big news story. It's like, holy shit, there's a huge spaceship that landed, and Michael Jordan was inside of it. But again, it's just like they never figure out that Michael's been away for so long. Like, you would think after a little bit they would care, or somebody would be like, where's my dad? It's like the kids would be like, hey, you know where my dad's been at? It's been a couple of days since we've seen him. Like, we're really afraid he's gone missing somewhere, but... I don't know. Again, movie logic here. Hey, you know what they say about short people. And yet it still won't be good enough to give Patrick Ewing an NBA championship in his career. So yay, happy ending for everybody. Well, there you go, folks. That's the reason why Michael Jordan came back to the basketball world. Or at least that's what this movie wants you to think, but I love how in the trailers they sell this as the thing that where it's just like, you know, he was the greatest basketball player in the world, and it's just like that when it's literally the last shot of the movie, the last scene of him in the film. You're 46 years old, Bill. It's time to let the past go. And that's the story of how Michael Jordan went on to lead the Bulls back to 3 NBA championships. As we come to the end of this movie, and yeah, like I said, a movie that is very, very flawed by so many levels, but it's still a nostalgic piece of my childhood, man. And the fun part is watching the credits, too, because you get to see names that you're very familiar with if you watch a lot of animation, like Bruce W. Smith came up, Tony Cervone, of course, worked with Spike Brandt on a number of different Looney Tunes projects in general. But, yeah, like I said, man, this is not a well-written movie by any means necessary. It is kind of also kind of an insult to the Looney Tunes in general, because that's, like I said, like we said before, in real life, they would have solved this problem in the span of a 7-minute cartoon, or at the very most, a half-hour special on TV. But again, to its credit, it was made at the right time. It was made at the right time where a lot of people could get into it, from the fact that, you know, it was being made when, you know, Michael Jordan and the Bulls were the top dogs in the NBA. You know, the Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network and not Disney Channel, ABC were still the places where you could watch the Looney Tunes on television, and that was my thing back then. I loved the Looney Tunes cartoons back in the day. I watched a lot of Warner Brothers animation back then. I mean, this was at the right time for me when this movie came out. It's a very silly, ridiculous movie, but I mean, it's a fun film regardless. It's a movie that is such a nostalgic piece of cheese that you can't help but love it, man. And again, it works because Michael Jordan isn't just playing a character in this. He's playing Michael Jordan. They're not asking him to do anything that over the top like they did with Shaquille O'Neal and Kazam. Like, they're just telling him, be Michael Jordan. We know you can be Michael Jordan, so be Michael Jordan. And that's what makes it work, man. I mean, yeah, like I said, it's a corny movie. It's a very ridiculous, over-the-top movie, but it's still a fun film regardless. It's a movie that just is very, very well done. But, I mean, yeah, like I said, it's a really good movie, a well-made film. Not really a well-made film, but a fun piece of my childhood overall. You can't help but love it, man. If you grew up back in this time period, it's a nostalgic piece of your childhood that it really is was one of those moments that it's just, it sticks with you after all these years. And to me, it still sticks with me after all this time. Fun movie. Fun film all around. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed my little commentary on Space Jam. And that's it for this episode of the Reviewing Network Live as we kick off our third season. It's been a very, very busy weekend. And we're starting a brand new week of new videos. I've got the Reviewing Network Talks About coming back tomorrow as I get ready to talk about my 30 favorite TV shows of all time. September starts tomorrow as well. I have a lot of stuff I got to do for that as well. So busy times here on the Reviewing Network channels, family of channels, if you will. But we'll be back next Sunday, of course, with the start of the Sunday Night NFL rewatches. I'll be doing live commentary on the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills game, and you'll see my thoughts on that after the game is over. So, with all that said, thank you so much for joining me on this. I hope you enjoyed watching Space Jam with me. And with all that said, I will see you guys next week. If you like this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, check out the last episodes we did, as well as check out our playlist. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I'll see you guys next time. And until then, we are out.